The key question that you and I need to know is, how do we keep the passion alive? And the way you and I keep the passion alive is the green banana. It's hope. Passion must have hope. Passion that does not have hope becomes, and here's a key word for leaders and volunteer and nonprofit organizations, it becomes cynical. And one of the saddest things is when you see a bunch of passionate people become cynical. I am so excited today because I am seeing something happen in the last 5 years that I've not seen happen since 1961. Volunteerism is hot. It is huge. And in 1961, when I was in college and I heard President Kennedy give that very famous inauguration speech, in fact, if I mention the first 2 words of his speech, you'll give me the rest of it. Think not. Yeah, you all know it, don't you? I've heard every other presidential speech, but I can't remember anything like that phrase. And you want to know something? I was a college student. We responded. We got excited. The Peace Corps started, and all of a sudden we got involved and moved. And then things happened like Watergate, like the Vietnam War, like the death of both Kennedys, the death of Martin Luther King, and we as a, generation, we became very cynical. And I look at this younger generation that's coming on, and they are incredible, and they are passionate. And I just, pray and I hope that they never lose that passion. And your and my job in leading passionate volunteers is to keep it alive. That is the first gift. Keep it alive. Keep it going strong. Now, how do I do that? Let me suggest the second one, which I have called a new song or a new piece of music. Leaders know how to keep the passion alive with a brand new song. I was riding to high school one day and I heard the Big Bopper. You were joking about the Harper Valley PTA, the generation that knows that. Probably very few of you even know the Big Bopper, but he was the one that was killed along with Richie Valens and Buddy Holly in that plane crash in Iowa in 1959, that February day, the day the music died. Well, this year before this, I'm a junior in high school, and I'm riding to high school, and I'm listening to the Big Bopper being interviewed on television, and they ask him this question: Big Bopper, what's the secret of your success? And that was a long time ago, over 50 years ago, and I still remember the Big Bopper's answer. You know what the Big Bopper said the secret of success is? Some cats got it, and some cats don't. Now, I don't know about you, but I wanted to know, first of all, what do these cats have? I also wanted to know, is it something you learn? Is it something you're born with? But most of all, I wanted to know, was Tom McKee was he one of those cats that had it? Now, I went to a rather large high school of 2,000 students. We lived out in the kind of countryside of Santa Clara County and the valley there, but it was mostly prune yards. And I would go into high school, and I was rather short those days. I was 5'4", 3/4 and 1/16. Sometimes I say 5'4" and 13/16. If I want to lie, I say I'm 5'5", if I really want to stretch the truth. But I would walk into school there, and nobody knew the name Tom McKee. Nobody knew who I was. But I was really pumped up because I'd heard the Big Bopper say some cats have it and some cats don't. And I thought, I can be one of these leaders. And in a couple of months, I found out the Big Bopper lesson, and it's really what I want to talk to you about today, what these cats have, and what you need as leadership to be able to mobilize and keep all of this passion alive. I walked into my second period in high school, and it was band. Talking a lot about the arts this morning, and I'm just sitting there. I grieve for this. As a former band member, and I'm sitting in the band, I played the trumpet. Wasn't the greatest trumpet player in the world, but I wasn't the worst either. I was kind of in the middle of the pack there, and I loved music, and I played the trumpet, and Mr. Perkins, our band leader, wrote up on the blackboard, anybody wants to try out for the student director of the Campbell High School band, come up and write your name on this board, and that's what I did. I was the 9th name on that list. 8 names before me, and 8 people that would stand up and lead the band. And Mr. Perkins' instructions were this: take out any piece of music, take the baton, and lead us, and we will vote on who's going to be the new leader of the Campbell High School band. I watched 8 people go before me, and as I watched them struggle leading the band, I knew I had this election down, hands down. I knew I was going to be the new student director of the Campbell High School band. Because you see, I'd been practicing for this for 5 years. My parents had the old 78 record, John Philip Sousa, Stars and Stripes Forever. And we happened to have that piece of music in our band folder, and I pulled it out, and I looked at it, and I would stand on a chair with a tinker toy as a baton, and I would lead that, and I would practice it. I knew every nuance of it. I knew the piccolo part, the trombone slides. I knew the trumpet part. I knew the clarinet. I knew every single cymbal crash of that song, because I'd listened to that record for 5 years, and I would stand there and lead that. And when my time came, I walked up to the front of the band, and I picked up a real baton for the first time in my life. And 129 people, all of their eyes were on me. You talk about leadership, that can be addictive. You know, everybody looking at you, everybody following. And by the way, leading music is a lot of fun, unless it's jazz, then everybody does their own thing. But everybody plays by the rote. They play the notes. They're given there. So that's kind of fun, you know, to be able to lead that. And so there I am. I'm leading this. And by the time we got to the fourth or fifth measure, the synergy between the band and myself was incredible. I mean, the Campbell High School band never played any better than they did at that particular moment. There was only one problem. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, because all I was doing was listening to that record. And I was sitting there and I was leading them. And when I finished, this is the honest truth. All my stories are true, but this one's a little far-fetched, and people really don't think it's really true, but it's really true. When I finished and I put my baton down, and it was the last bump, you know, that came through there, I got a standing ovation with all but 8 people. And I was the new student director of the Campbell High School Band. Yeah. 2 months later, I did an assembly, and I got to get up and lead, and I walked around campus feeling I'm one of these cats that have it. And I'd walk into Spanish, I'd walk into algebra and chemistry, and people say, Tom, I didn't know you could do that. But I still hadn't learned the Big Bopper lesson yet. I still hadn't learned what I want to talk to you about, which is so important in leadership and mobilizing the power and passion of the volunteer, you know, the PTA volunteers. I learned that a couple months later when Mr. Perkins got a phone call in the middle of one of the songs he was directing, and he says, Tom, come up here and finish this. It was a Bach chorale. I'd never heard that record. I had no idea what to do. So I stood up and I did what leaders do when they don't know what to do. Do you know what that is? You're all good. You're all good. Yeah, fake it till you make it. By the way, the younger generation can tell when we're doing that real quick. But I walked up there and I grabbed my piece of music, and for a 16-year-old, I thought I was pretty smart. I counted. There were 98 measures. It was the 3/4 time. I knew how to beat 3/4 time. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. When I get to 98, I'll cut everybody off. Now, that's pretty smart for a 16-year-old, don't you think? I'd figure all of that out. And I got up there and I had the baton. We're ready to go. And this is our new leader. And I'm going 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Have you ever heard Bach to the beat of Sousa? It wasn't pretty. By the time we got to about the 6th or 7th measure, I was totally lost. I didn't know where I was. Nobody was playing. I'm up there just waving the air. And that's when I learned the Big Bopper lesson, which was so key. You know what the Big Bopper taught me that day? Leadership is understanding that life keeps handing you new pieces of music. You can't rely on old records. You can't rely on the old way you did it. And leaders interpret those changes. When you look at education in California, you look at the things we're going through huge changes. And what leaders do is they interpret those changes, and then they set a beat that other people can follow. Because there's no leadership without followership. And so you're setting that beat. And I says, okay, how do I do this? You do this by asking 2 key questions. What are the constants, and what is changing? I had a piece of music here. I still take private music lessons today. And my music teacher, every Tuesday morning when I take lessons, he gives me a new song. And I look at this song, and the first thing I do when I look at this music is I look for the constants. Half notes are half notes, whole notes are whole notes, key signatures. Those are the constants. They tell me what to do. And as I look at that, then I look at the changes and how they are rearranged. And you want to know something? You get tired of the old songs, playing the old songs. It gets exciting when you see a new one. So what you do in your organization is you ask these 2 questions. If you want to keep the passion alive, you're going to say, what should never change and what changes? And that takes wisdom to be able to understand it. But let me give you a couple hints. First of all, what never changes is your cause. It's your mission.